I'm currently writing this locked in my garage and hiding under some tarpaulin sheets. It is trying to get in. I don't know if anyone will see this, but I need help and an explanation. Yesterday I woke up, but something felt different. I couldn't hear the loud sounds of cars driving down the highway next to my house, or the 90s radio station that my mother always listened to in the morning. Just complete silence. There was just an unexplainable feeling in my gut that something was off. I get dressed and walk downstairs, not to be greeted by a good morning from my mother, but instead, I step into the living room to see her sat in her old armchair, blankly staring out of the small glazed window opposite. She was sitting dead still, and I couldn't even see her chest moving from her breathing, or a single blink. Confused, I walk into the kitchen and grab an iced coffee from the fridge while trying to make a conversation with my mother, but there's no reply. She must just be tired, I think. I brush off the strange encounter with my mom and get ready for college. When I step out of the house, I'm not met with the usual sound of vehicles speeding down the highway or my neighbors rushing to work. Instead, there's just nothing. Not a single car on the road or trail left behind in the sky from a plane. No signs of life. All of the nearby houses have their lights off, despite it being early morning. I decided to just keep going with my plans and get to college. Maybe the highway is just closed, I think. Finally getting to my bus stop, I slump down onto the floor in defeat. The whole situation is confusing, and I'm racking my brain to try to find any explanation for what might be happening. My phone has no reception, and after waiting for a while, I figure that the bus probably isn't coming. I make the decision to walk into the town center, hoping to find any signs of life there. During the long, tedious walk, a piece of weathered paper strapped to a streetlight catches my attention. I can see the bold "missing" writing from far away, but when I get closer, I see myself and another person in the black and white laminated photo above. This photo of me had never been taken. That was impossible, as I can notice by his recognizable tattoos that the blurred face next to me was my best friend, who died 6 years ago. He had committed suicide after being admitted to a mental asylum for schizophrenia. I remember the day he came to me covered in a cold sweat and with tears streaming from his eyes, swearing he saw himself shoot his brother. I pushed him away and told him to sober up. It looked like the picture had been taken recently, as I looked the same as I do now, but I obviously haven't seen my friend for years. At this point, I'm midway through a panic attack, and my stomach feels like it's going to explode. I start sprinting back home, sweat accumulating all over my body from a mix of running and fear. Finally reaching my house, I push the door open to once again see my mother in the exact same position, staring out of the small window. She hadn't moved a muscle, and it wouldn't surprise me if she hadn't blinked too. Her head slowly turns to me as she says, "Come and give Mommy a hug." I cautiously walk over as she stands from her chair and spreads her arms out, gesturing for me to get closer. When I stay still, she walks towards me and wraps her arms around me, her fingers feeling cold and wiry as she slowly trails them along my back. When she finally pulled away, I noticed that her usually brown eyes had turned to an icy blue-looking artificial in a way. I quickly rush back to my room, jumping into my bed and closing my eyes tightly. This is all just a nightmare. If I fall asleep in the dream, I will wake up in real life, I think to myself. I can slowly feel myself drifting off to sleep, not daring to move a muscle. I eventually fall asleep, still wearing my collage clothes and covered in sweat. I wake up after a while, and I've never been so happy to hear the sound of annoying loud cars on the highway outside. It was all just a nightmare. I hop out of bed, listening to the birds chirping their songs and hearing the faint noise of the same 90s radio station downstairs as always. After standing up, I realize that I'm wearing the same clothes as I did in the nightmare. Brushing it off as a strange coincidence, I open my door and start walking downstairs. I can hear my mother talking to someone downstairs. Had Dad come back? No, the voice sounded strangely familiar. I peer around the doorframe to see myself, happily walking around and talking to my mother. It's wearing my pajamas and is acting as I usually would, except it's not me. I stare blankly in confusion at myself until we make eye contact. Its eyes mimic mine but look completely lifeless. The pupils were constantly dilated and cold. Its lips curl into a wide smile as it reaches for a knife from the drawer. "1 second, Mother," it says blankly to my mom, slowly walking towards me. I run inside the garage, locking the door behind me. I reach for some sheets on a shelf and spread them out on the floor, taking one last look outside before I hide underneath them. I peer out of the small frosted window on my garage door to see myself, smiling at me in a way that is not humanly possible, reaching from one ear to the other, pounding on the thin wooden door with a knife in its hand. I crawl under the sheets and hide, my whole body shaking in fear. As I'm writing this, I can hear the glass slowly crack at every hit it makes. I don't have much time and I've run out of hope. This thing is going to kill me, then probably keep living my life and wearing my body, while I'm actually dead and decomposing in a dumpster somewhere. The thing that scares me most is that no one will notice any difference. This creature will probably get away with wearing my skin. I don't know if anyone is going to hear this, but this creature is not me, and I don't know what it is capable of. So, if anyone meets someone named Max Edmonds, run.